Good evening, my exported Askelosaurus. Y'all should be used to my unhinged lore theory crafting by now, but today, the door ajar is a hole to the Earth's core. So let's hop right in. Zenless is a Honkai game, and the community has rallied against this fact since the beginning. I see a lot of people using a single interview as a source for why there are no XPs and the game is completely separate from the other Hoyo games. I read the interview and that's not what it says. So I implore you, refine your reading comprehension skills. And if you refuse to read, just listen to what the interview says. It's a little deceptive. A quick glance would mean that ZZZ is completely separate, but upon further inspection, it's closer to what's happening in the other games. I was shocked when I realized it is another Honkai game. This is what the interview says. Unfortunately, if you're hoping to see your favorite Genshin or HSR characters show up in ZZZ, you might be out of luck. For now at least, Lee tells us that, quote, "As of today, I don't think we found a really good entry point for that to happen," end quote. Rather than force the issue, the team behind ZZZ would prefer a crossover to, quote, "come non-naturally, and that's why we haven't done it yet," end quote. There's hope to be had though, for Lee explains, quote, "That's not to say we're not going to do it. There's certainly a possibility there, but there's not really a way we found so far where it would really fit," end quote. Furthermore, suppose the team were to bring an existing character from another game. In that case, they'd prefer to, quote, "give it a bit of a revamp," end quote, essentially leading to a different character, quote, "with new characteristics," end quote. As for any subtle nods to other games, you might want to know if you can expect any more after players spotted that Belobog Heavy Industries faction in ZZZ shares a name with a city in Honkai Star Rail. Well, no, that isn't a nod nor is it a connection. According to Lee, that link between the games is, quote, "entirely accidental," end quote. That's right, it's simply a brilliant coincidence, and given what Lee wants to do with ZZZ, it's fair to say that any other neat tidbits like that are also accidental. Okay, so that's the important part. We know that Belobog is a coincidence, but the other things aren't confirmed nor denied. We can use our critical thinking skills here. The interviewer is jumping to a lot of conclusions, and they are the one claiming that the other things are just accidental. Guys, come on, we can't be fighting a multi-dimensional, time-bending, hive-mind, eye-shaped alien in all of these games and it not be connected. I'm not saying the interview is wrong, but the interviewer was being unprofessional. Every character in Honkai Star Rail and Genshin is unique, even if they're an XP. I think this is closer to what the devs meant and what they're going for. Like they're connected, but their own characters. So, why did the interviewer say that they're never going to be connected when the developer said that they are actively working on it and going to revamp them? Like, as if they already had it planned. Let's be so for real. How many brilliant coincidences are there going to be before people accept that this is a Honkai game? Now, I'm not going to do any deep dives, that would make the video much too long. I'm just pointing out the similarities. We know this is a Hoyo game, so we need to stop beating around the bush about its connection to the Honkai franchise. Look at the hollow, you know exactly what that is. And we see the imaginary tree imagery. That's the best place to start. This is what anchors the Hoyo multiverse. Both Honkai Impact and Honkai Star Rail describe each universe as a part of its infinitely expanding branches and leaves. A young shoot sprouted from the cracks of primordial chaos. Nurtured by time for billions of years, it grew into a huge, unrivaled tree. The branches of the giant tree bore colorful young leaves, each containing a fragment of the universe's will, a will that eternally speaks in cryptic vagaries, but also bestows stunning scenery, treasures, epics, and life upon every world. There's a picture of it in Lumina Square branch of HIA, okay? The writers are setting it up so that Yizhuan will have a better explanation of what's going on in Season 2. But until then, art of the imaginary tree implies the Sea of Quanta exists in the story as well. The Sea of Quanta is the counterpart to the imaginary tree. Are they aliens? Are they gods? Well, you decide, because the translations and analogies make it confusing. In Chapter 10 of Honkai Impact, it is described as a puddle. In the databank of Honkai Star Rail, it's described as an unseeable void. But what does this mean for Zenless Zone Zero? Well, when a universe falls from the imaginary tree into the Sea of Quanta, it creates a bubble universe and things get wacky. I really think this is the closest to what we see in Zenless, especially with the technology regressing from what the old civilization had. These bubble universes have their own laws of physics, and this is the real key to figuring out what's going on. Each of the hollows is innately connected to a powerful ethereal that descends into it, and sometimes they can show up in other forms or do some time loop shenanigans. Doesn't that sound similar to the ether anchors required for a bubble universe in the Sea of Quanta? And this implies that the Hollow Zero expansion that the original Void Hunters were fighting was caused by this world dying. We also see it in the Melano Hollow, which has a crystal instead of an ethereal. It's weird in there. It has unique properties that aren't seen in the other hollows, like light manipulating the simulation. We also see the color being drained, so we know it functions very similarly to the fissures, not the other hollows. We also see evidence for this with Hollow Zero. This is the oldest, most influential hollow in the story of Zenless Zone Zero. Look at how all the buildings are floating. It looks very similar to one of the bubble universes that Bronya went through. Just saying. We also know that it created a time distortion of about 10 years on both sides of the timeline. If this is a bubble universe, who would the ether anchor for the whole bubble universe be? We don't know. We're waiting to find that lore. Hopefully they give it to us soon. But for now, we know the stakes are rising. The story goes from rescuing the Cunning Hares to fighting Bringer, then taking on all of Tops, and then the Hive Mind cult. We're also fighting the Hollows directly more often. Like, the Hollows have to be Stellarons or Honkai, but in the Zenless world. I did a deep dive on what the Hollows are already, and TLDR, they're dark energy and the crystals are dark matter in the form of beryl. Uncanny, because Honkai is dark energy, and Stellarons are most likely antimatter, but they function exactly the same as the Honkai and the Hollows. Like, my brain is breaking that more people are not just saying, yeah, they're similar, but they're the exact same. Another aspect that is consistent throughout all the games is corruption. In Honkai Impact, we see it as Honkai infections, and this has the exact same pattern as it does in Zenless Zone Zero. We also see it in Honkai Star Rail as corrosion or fragmentums. It's connected to the Stellaron disaster, but we also see it in the Black Tide in Amphorius. Don't you think the Black Tide and the Dark Wall are very similar? Well, I mean, this one is obvious, and I'm not going to insult your intelligence by over-explaining the little lore that we have on both of them in both games. I'd rather yap about the moon, because it's the moon, holy shit, the moon. I already did a deep dive on the Zenless moon lore, but for a short recap, there's two, and one of them is hollow and corrupted, and the real one is visible in the Cretan Hollow. The Lemnian Hollow is where the aerospace city is. We know that New Eridu no longer makes trips to the moon, and there are no planes in the game currently. They use airships, blimps, and helicopters as their main sources of air travel because there is literally no other city on Earth. We don't know if there actually is or not, but it's implied there will be at some point. The next location is on Wi-Fi Peninsula in New Eridu, so we have to wait at least a year to find out. There's also plenty of surface level of similarities, like Honkai beasts and ethereals and whatever they're fighting in Amphorius. Like what the Void looks like. Again, the corruption on people, stigma, the Honkai resistance, ether aptitude, and the elemental control. Like, come on. These things are all inherent to the characters. They have to be connected. There is a mountain of deep lore similarities. I don't even know where to begin. It's in all the little details. Like, most of all, I want to know what you noticed. The big ones for me was the Hersher of corruption being an eye and finality being an I and terminus moving backwards in time, and all of this showing up in the creator and Bell and Wise's connection to the creator. Like, the subversion of expectations while maintaining the rules set up for the Honkai verse seems to be very important to the writers, and that's what I really want to dig into on this. Well, first, the joke is that each universe or bubble universe will have its own set of rules, making it convenient and convoluted. They're also subverting expectations with the organizations in the games, with the archetypes and the tropes that they're choosing to use, and the characters. Come on, an XP and ZZZ, riddle me this, why wouldn't they print money? Like, Caesar, Miyabi, and Yi Zhuan are the obvious ones, but on the nose foreshadowing, they have characters named Emmy, Leisha, and Dan. Is it supposed to be that blatant? And it doesn't get more obvious than Bell and Wise having an ethereal connection to the I alien. They pay homage to all the previous main characters while giving them a really unique story. Like, they have to be connected to the temperamental orb to be a Hoyo main character. But what even is it? So finality or terminus is an alien, not a god. Good, we're on the same page. That means the creator is probably a manifestation of finality. I keep saying that Archie is the creator, but in Honkai Star Rail terms, he wouldn't be like an emanator, he would be an Aeon. It's literally just a big multidimensional I alien thing. He's in the hive mind. Like, in all of the games, it's a hive mind. And I don't care what you call it, it's that. It's the orb. And let's be so for real right now, if Zenless Zone Zero is in the Honkai verse, we also have to be following the characters most profoundly connected to finality and the time shenanigans. And in Zenless, the eye has multiple meanings. So what it represents first and foremost is the Eye of Providence. The people of New Eridu have a nihilistic view of the gods, that they're silently watching all the people suffer. But Eos talks about Carol teaching him about belief, and this is foreshadowing for Bell and Wise's true powers being connected to the creator. So now we know that Bell and Wise were probably always going to be playable. But what about the eye implants and what's happening with that? Kiana has an eye implant, and Still and Kalis have a Stellaron implanted into them. And it's not just that, it's everywhere. The Eidolons for Remembrance, Stell, and Kalis are narrator of the present, gleamer of the past, chanter of the future, dancer of the muse, seamster of the ode, and bearer of the revelation. Does that not perfectly encapsulate what's going on with Bell and Wise fighting the Exaltists and the creator, but also being that? It's not a subtle coincidence. This is one of the archetypes in the Honkai games. I'm gonna dig into it a little bit more. The clone aspect, it's uncanny on purpose. Bell and Wise are presented similar to Sunbringer and Joyous. Suspiciously, Kiana is a clone. We also see it with Anby and Soldier 11. But in Honkai Star Rail, there is the entirety of the propagation path, an entire god dedicated to it. And all the main characters start the story with some kind of vision. We know from ancient literature it's an important trope, but I think this is closest to the vision that Macbeth has. We know the end of the story, but it still has to happen. Stell and Kalis can't be the ones having the vision in the same way because they're dead at the beginning of the story. We get that scene with Kafka and Silverwolf instead, and that is supposed to be the vision. We also see it with Kiana getting the ship, all that stuff. It was a whole bunch of things. We know that in Honkai Impact, in Honkai Star Rail, that the arc where the main character quote-unquote dies in the story is taking place in a story that's inspired by Greek mythology. But in Zenless Zone Zero, it does have different inspiration. So that's a great way to subvert expectations, especially when it's set up to be Mesopotamian mythology. Since the beginning, we see foreshadowing, serious foreshadowing, that Bell and Wise have to die to start this narrative arc. Vivian's vision is alluding to this, it's foreshadowing this, but it's also kind of a fake out. They do say it's resolved, but it hasn't been resolved. The frustrating part is that there are the same amount of clues for who it will be, like if it's the character you choose or the sibling. What do you think it's gonna be? I would love to hear your tinfoil hat thoughts. We also see the theme of harvesting the Honkai ether and stellarons. In every game, there are companies finding ways to mitigate the effects of the disaster and treating it like a gold rush. As a commentary on society, this adds a layer of, oh shit, bad people can do good things sometimes. And the complexity of these villains are reduced greatly. They fit neatly into the justified antagonist. Like, the characters genuinely just want them to be less shitty. Tops and the Exaltists have counterparts in the other games. Honkai Impact's use of Helios is eerily similar as well. They were a medical tech company offering free help to people infected with Honkai, while Helios Academy is a school studying the ether while also offering free help to people infected with the ether in the form of corruption. Okay, so if you don't think that's connected, I can't help you. They also say there's something brewing under the surface, and it matches how ZZZ players should feel about what happened to Bell and Wise. Like, so many people are okay with what Carol Arna did to them and her other students, but they aren't okay with what happened to Harumasa. Another counterpart that is just starting to be explored are the Aeons, Gods, Emanators, and Hershers. We don't have much lore on them, but we know the Void Hunters exist. That's a special rank and a title given to the characters who earned it from the mayor. But whatever Bell and Wise have going on is clearly more than a title that can be earned. Now that we established the major and minor antagonists are eerily similar, what about the main characters' abilities? We see throughout all of the games that they all pretty much share all of the abilities that they gain throughout the stories. Some of them start in different places and gain different abilities, but we know that it's all connected. We see Bell and Wise are foreshadowed to have the rewind or backstream ability, which is identical to what Oryx gives Stell and Kalis in Honkai Star Rail. We also see it with Fuli, and they are able to literally rewind time. They also have the ability to affect people's mindscapes in Penacony, identical to how Qingyi's mindscape is affected by the main characters. Bell and Wise also yoinked the same power from Kiana, and Stell and Kalis at this point. They absorb and contain the Honkai Ether and Stellaron. Bell and Wise also have the finality symbol show up in their eyes, and then the eye before the void symbol flashes. This is also why Bell and Wise being clones is very, very likely. We know that most of them in other games were created to fight the disaster that they were facing, and we know that they usually have a counterpart. So like Otto was obsessed with Callan, if I remember correctly, and that's who Teresa is a clone of, while Kiana is the clone of the real Kiana. Like, Carol was wacky, and plenty of the NPCs are fond of the Void Hunters. Like, what if Silver Company was connected to all of that? Like, the mayor is saying that he was fond of Carol and also wanting to protect New Eridu. Like, it all makes sense. It's all adding up to be a little bit, I don't want to say derivative. I hope they subvert expectations, but for now, it's very similar to the other Honkai games. We also have to talk about the 4 keys. Like, the power of friendship means that they have to get 4 things. Like, it's kind of crazy how all of these numbers, these tropes, these archetypes keep showing up. Bell and Wise are going to get Ginny and Fairy before the game even starts. We know that's going to happen. But what about the other 2? I think Rain and Nicole are going to get Ghost and Yukai respectively, and it's interesting that Fairy and Belle are counterparts, while Ginny and Wise are counterparts. It's very, very similar to the 4 gems that Kiana gets in Honkai Impact. They even have similar colors. I mean, I will say the cyan and green are the only ones that are completely different, but altogether, everything has a different meaning in the story. It's just a trope and it's very similar. So, we also have to talk about Belle being the Mei Honkai archetype. The thunder and electricity is shown with the color blue in Zenless Zone Zero, and her key is Fairy, a blue AI entity that is consuming electricity to function, and not just like a normal amount, enough to be a point of contention within the game. The other AI don't need this type of power supply. And we know that Wise is Kiana in the Honkai archetype. It's a chill version of the personality. Like, the biggest subversion of expectations, they actually have the same personality, but the energy is toned down. And you can't change my mind on this. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. If you would like a deep dive on it, let me know, because it's kind of bonkers. Now that we established that Zenless Zone Zero is, in fact, a Honkai game, I need to know what you think. Like, tell me everything, all of your theories. I want to see them. I want to read them. If you made it this far, please subscribe for more unpopular opinions, hot takes, and appropriately deranged lore analysis for Zenless Zone Zero. Like, if you would like a little bit of Honkai lore analysis or theories, again, like, let me know. You know my hottest takes were not well received. I love predicting plot twists, so I guess that's what I'm really doing here. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one.